The Jew is very ingenious. Allah has given him a lot of intelligence, a lot more than most of us. And in the Holy Quran, I was checking up this evening, you know, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam had two sons, Hazrat Ismail and Hazrat Ishaq. And Allah Bari Ta'ala is describing Hazrat Ismail as Ghulaman Halima. Halim means a suffering and a humble person. And he describes Ishaq as Alim, very knowledgeable. Now Allah is all wise, He's omniscient, He knows. And He's describing Ismail and his children as Halim, submissive, suffering, patient, persevering. They are the children of Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam, the Arabs. And the children of Ishaq, the Jews, Alim, knowledgeable. Allah is giving, as I was telling you the other night, everybody, Allah Bari Ta'ala has given him something special. He's given something special to the Arabs, He's given something special to the Jews. So this Alim, knowledgeable people, ingenious people, a very ingenious people, as I say, they came to Jesus again and again with problems, created problems. They created the problems. They come to Jesus and they says, Master, they come to Jesus again, according to their own records, the Christian record. Now they bring a woman, they catch her and they bring her. He says, you know, Master, this woman, we caught her in the act of doing zina, adultery. What must we do to her? So if he says, stone her, they'll stone her, because that was a law. In the Torah, it says the adulterer and the adulteress must be stoned to death. So if he says stone her, they'll go and kill her. And adultery was not a capital crime in the Roman Empire. So they'll be charged. He said, why did you kill that woman? He said, look, our Messiah said so. So he's in trouble with the government. If he says, let her go, then they say, you see, this man is not a man of God. Because of the Torah says that the adulterer and the adulteress must be stoned to death. So again, heads I win, tails you lose. Both way poor Jesus loses. So what does he do? Again, he's also a Jew. Allah has also given him that intelligence. So he says, let him who's free from sin cast the first stone. Anybody who's sinless, you haven't done any crime, you didn't do haram, zina, then you start. And then he started scribbling in the sand. The Christians don't know what he was scribbling. People were watching over his shoulder to find out what he's scribbling. Actually, he was scribbling combinations of names. Mary and Joseph. This guy who was looking over the shoulder is Joseph, and he had something to do with Mary. So he says, Mary and Joseph. It reminds him as it's me, away he goes. By the time he's finished scribbling these combinations, the whole lot of them were gone. Because they were all zanis, they were all adulterers. So he solved the problem. Now what are we to do with the Jews?
When we come for question time, there's a microphone in front here. Please come and put your question. One question at a time. If you have more than one question and there's a queue behind you, please then go to the back of the queue for the second question. It's over now to question time. Shh.
Mr. Chairman.
Your question into the microphone, please.
Well, I was chatting with Mr. Didat yesterday evening after the meeting, and well, I regretted that the emphasis on question time does exclude rather any corrections. Now, I think if we have a meaningful question time, then we should also stick to certain corrections, if there are any, of course.
Yeah.
I was quite amazed about the statement that Mr. Didat made in speaking about the adulteress that was caught when he said the Bible doesn't state what Jesus wrote into the sand, but I can tell you. And then he gave us the combinations of name, Mary and Joseph, David and Bathsheba. Now, I can't remember to have that read at any place in the Quran. And I can only conclude from that it must have been made up in his own imagination. Now, I think truth in that respect is very important because it could start off a filthy thinking on these aspects, as has been also, had a tendency yesterday night in certain combinations that I have discovered where I felt very, very sorry. In this point, and there I come to my question, Mr. Didat pointed out that the Jews have the punishment of stoning for adulterers, and so does the Quran say. I would like to ask him to read to us from the Quran where it says that adulterers should be stoned. Could you please do that for us?
I forget your name.
Mr. Walton.
Mr. Walton, yes. Now, this was not an exposition of what Islam says and what Christianity says with regards to that adulteress that they brought before Jesus, you see. Now, you haven't got an alternative answer to say what was Jesus scribbling. You haven't. If you had, you would have given it to the audience and said, look, this is what he was doing. He wasn't doing what Didat suggests. So, in the absence of a theory that the Christian world has been absent, they have not been able to, the only assumption we can have is that for people to watch over his shoulder and walk away. What for? What are they reading?
Well,
this was my assumption.
Well, but it's against the biblical text, you must see. Because,
what does it say?
Well, it states clearly that Jesus first wrote into the sand, and afterwards he told the people, the one who is without sin may throw the first stone. You put the order the other way around, and then said when they looked over the shoulders, they could see that.
The problem
it doesn't say anything like that in the Bible.
The problem is, what did he write?
That's not my problem, it's yours.
No, it's yours because you haven't got it.
No, I don't need it because I don't make anything up.
Now you need it. You see the Bible you are using. What Bible are you using there?
I use the Bible.
No, which Bible is it?
Well, which Quran do you use?
I use Yusuf Ali's. Which one do you use?
Well, this is the NIV Bible.
Huh? What Bible is it?
In this case, it's the NIV Bible, but it doesn't matter. New International Version.
Right.
I could use the Greek New Testament as well.
Now I can tell you that in the RSV, this incident about the adulteress is thrown out as a fabrication.
No, sorry, it's at the bottom as a margin remark.
In
but
the text,
Mr. Didat, could you please answer to my question? Could you please read from the Quran?
No, that is not my job. I spoke.
You made
the subject was, if you remember, the subject was Arabs and Israel. I spoke for 1.5 hours, and you haven't got a single question on the subject.
I have.
Please come to that first before we entertain you with other things.
Mr. Didat, if I put a question to anything you said tonight, then this is according to the subject. Otherwise, you have wandered away from your subject.
The subject is Arabs and Israel, conflict or conciliation. On that theme, I spoke for 1.5 hours.
No, otherwise you couldn't have made that statement. Please, could you please answer my question? Where does it say the Quran?
There is no such verse.
Well, that
about stoning. There is no such verse in the Quran.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. Because I believe that truth is important. Now, if you make a statement...
Did I say it's in the Quran?
Yes, you said. You can listen to it.
Did I say that stoning is in the Quran?
Yes, you said.
I think, you see, people come along with preconceived ideas. You see, you hear what you brought from the outside. The tapes are available. You buy this one tape and you go and listen to it at home and see if I said that the Quran says that the adulterer, I said in the book of Leviticus, it says that the adulterer and the adulteress must be stoned to death. Leviticus, and Leviticus is not the Quran.
Okay, we can listen to the tape and then we meet again. Thank you.
Right.
You have no questions on the subject itself?
Anybody else with a question on the topic? As I said at the previous night, just hold it, I said at the previous night,